Greetings, I'm Dike Rostant. Welcome back to the TTT News. Love is in the air as Valentine Day approaches, so we are going in depth on love in the house with the Counsellor and Family Life Educator, Noeline Husband. Welcome, Ms. Husbands. Thank you so much for making the time. How are you doing?
Thank you, Dike. It's so good to be here. I'm fine. Just so happy and excited to be here.
Very glad to have you. Give us a little overview of Wise Counselor and Associates. Thank you.
Okay. Wise Counselor Associates is a counseling therapy practice. I founded it in around 2005, so which makes it about 17 years old. And it seems that so much has happened in that time, so that we work mainly with couples, families, relationships, and this has been my passion. Yes.
And in terms of that passion, it seems as though there's a spirit, there's a spiritual element to it, because I'm seeing the words wisdom, integrity, spirit-filled
Yes.
excellence. How does
Yes.
that?
So I decided to use the term wise counselor because the Bible talks a lot about wisdom, and having had quite a bit of life experience when I founded the practice, I thought, in addition to my training as a therapist, there was also my practical experience to bring to the practice. Yes. So therefore, wisdom is one of the main things, my values. So I use the word wise. So our values are wisdom, integrity, spirit-filled, excellence. And those are the virtues we live by. And now spirit-filled as well as service. So we seek to present the highest quality of service to our clients.
Thank you so
And
much
these
for
have
that.
been the thing. Yes.
And in terms of
Yes.
and in
And
terms of those
our
relationships, there's a
yes.
song that says the heart is not so smart. But
Mm.
what are some of the is there a target or a general type of individual who would seek your counsel or would try to afford themselves of your services?
Okay. What we have found is that we started off very broad-based, meaning that we would have had people who were dealing with, for instance, depression, anxiety, and things like that. So of course we still have clients like that, but our focus has been on relationship because we find that God has created us for relationship, and you know, and there's so much relationship pain. Yes. So I decided that we needed to focus. If we could help people heal relationship pain, we would have done quite a bit as counselors. So the thing is that, people get into relationships for so many reasons, but relationships heal as well as they could be very painful. So it has been really quite a journey seeing couples, particularly, even individuals who are in relationship, but sometimes either the one or the other partner would come to counseling, so that, and the whole purpose is to heal a broken relationship. And there's quite a way, there are so many ways that people could be hurting in relationships.
And
And as
just
you
be
said, love is it. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
sorry, and
Mm-hmm.
just before we talk about the ways that individuals can be hurting in relationships, do you prefer
Mm-hmm.
that you deal with one person from a relationship or you deal with both of them? And if you're dealing with both of them, do you deal with them both of them at the same time?
Mm-hmm. What we find is that a couple would come to counseling, and very often it's, you want to have both perspectives. So we may start off by seeing both together, you know, but it's always good that you see each partner separately so that you get an overall perspective of what happens. But the joy of this is that at the end of it, at the end of the process, that you're able to see two people who are hurting possibly in their own separate worlds. People are, separated, disconnected, angry, hostile towards each other, disappointed. And then when you bring them together, you could see that you could see ways in which they turn to each other. Yes, and you could see you actually witness the healing process.
And that is
Yeah,
definitely
and
a
this is
beautiful thing.
yes,
Part of the reason
it's
I ask is
beautiful,
because
beautiful.
I can imagine individuals who, like you say, are hurting coming into a relationship or coming to try to heal their relationship, taking an
Definitely,
active part
yes.
in it. But at the same time, because you don't necessarily want to feel vulnerable or seem to be even more vulnerable at that
Mhm.
point in time, you're very defensive. So you're unable to
Exactly.
break down those walls,
Yes.
to do the shadow work, to have that healing take place. So I'm glad
The
you brought
healing,
you
definitely.
got that out
So
first.
you,
Thank you.
you need this healing space that gives you the opportunity to really to feel safe. Yes. Being guided, knowing that there's somebody. It feels sometimes as if you're actually holding these people. You're actually in that sacred space where you could actually see change taking place.
And it's definitely nothing to be
And
taken
it's
lightly.
beautiful. It is. It is beautiful.
But you spoke about relationship pain. I want you to explain that, break that down for me a little more, as well as some of those challenges that may lead to relationship pain. I'm not asking you for any specific body business, husbands,
Definitely not.
but, but broadly speaking, what would
Okay.
some of those challenges be?
Okay. So I always remember this gentleman who called. He said he and his wife had reached a point where he decided that it was time they needed help. They both decided, I suppose. And she instructed him very specifically that whoever he called to ask and make sure that um, they had borne that same pain that they were going through. They didn't want somebody who was perfect, have you endured? So when he called, he asked me, have you endured marriage? And I always remember that, have you endured marriage? So some people look at relationship as a test of endurance. You know, when people come together in a marriage, in a relationship, not even a marriage, in a relationship, everything seems perfect. You know, this is my soulmate. Yeah, so much alike. You have so much in common. And that is part of, the bonding process. Yes. But if people are not careful or they're not aware, some people expect this excitement, this euphoria of getting into a relationship and feeling so safe and feeling so excited. And it's almost like, an intoxication, a temporary psychosis, as they say, because of all the chemicals that are released and all the hormones, etc. But this period doesn't last forever. It could last between a year, 2 years. And then people start to feel disappointed, they feel disconnected. And rather than turning towards each other, they start to turn away. So therefore, some people start to feel abandoned because I know you can meet my needs, but you're no longer meeting my needs. So rather than coming together to, you know, support each other as they would have before, they drift apart.
And
So
I want
therefore,
to continue this specific line of conversation when we return from the break, Ms.
yes,
Husbands. We're speaking with
sure.
Noeline Husband of Wise Counselor Associates, and we are going to be playing a little bit of a music video by Static, the producer, featuring Mark Pear and Turner, the only one.
Am I the only one? Only one that you'll ever love? You'll ever love? Am I the only one? Only one that you'll ever love? You'll ever love? I do want we to find. Just hold on to me tight. I'll make sure that you know the answers. Watch me right in my eyes. Please don't you tell me lies. Am I the only one? Am I the only one? The only one. Only one that you'll ever love. You'll ever love. So many wish but never reach. Cause when I'm falling and all the world seems dark, you help me find my peace. In the still of the night, I lay listening to you breathe. People search for heaven all their lives. How lucky am I? Heaven's breathing next to me. Oh, shoot me by, Johnny. Oh, shoot me by, yeah. Oh, shoot me by, Johnny.
And we are seeing different expressions of love. We started back this half of the conversation with Freetown Collective Oshun, the Battalion, a remix by DJ Private Ryan. And we are speaking with Noeline Husband, the Counsellor and Family Life Educator of Wise Counsellor Associates. 17 years in existence, dealing with a great deal of issues, looking at relationships. But Ms. Husbands, just before we took the break, you said that sometimes people are saying that, yes, you can meet my needs, but you're not meeting my needs. Is this kind of like the 80-20 in terms of like 80% is there, but 20% we're yearning for? How do you explain something like that?
Okay, some people feel their needs are not being met at all. Because you remember, they would have come out of that bonding period where everything seemed perfect. So that by the time they get into this really committed relationship, that the excitement of the bonding period would have waned, and people get busy, they have children, they get busy with jobs, and by that time, not having understood the purpose of relationship, which is to be supportive of each other, help the other to be the best they can be in the relationship, people sometimes retreat into their own worlds. So there's this sense of disconnection. Yeah? And disconnect is a big thing in relationship. People feel lonely. Yeah? So resentment builds. They may not have practiced how to communicate, so that each person, and people are unable to be vulnerable. So I need to protect myself from you. So when issues come up, I try to deal with them myself. I just feel angry. So that eventually it becomes like, living lives of desperation, living quietly desperate in this situation, and then eventually some people would come saying, this is my last resort. The idea being, I want to say that I've tried everything and nothing has worked. So I'm focusing on, because we started speaking about relationship pain, but not all relationships are like that. Some people are actually on a part of growth where they recognize, okay, this is my relationship, this is my choice. We need to support each other. We need to have a vision for a future. And sometimes even in long-term relationships, if people would have gone on being busy with careers, being busy with children, being busy with the day-to-day routines of life. And they come to a point of not so much disconnect, but we could do better than this. They recall that, yes, we had this connection, there's something missing. And so they would, at that point, possibly come to counseling to have this space where they could speak, where they could be guided. And those are really the best people to work with. Those were the relationship pain. Yes, we love to help them, but it means starting at a different point. So that as counselors, what you need to do is where to intervene in that particular relationship. Okay? So that's why we take time to assess, and then where to intervene.
And there's a term that you use in terms of living lives in quiet desperation.
Quiet desperation.
And anecdotally and otherwise, the pandemic has given many opportunities for those kind of lives. And what kind of ways can love still be expressed, or feelings of caring can still be expressed to you during this period of the pandemic?
Well, there are opportunities. I was thinking that this is such an opportunity that all of us have now to grow and to change, not only in relationships, but as individuals, as persons. So, the time has passed so quickly. And I remember when it first started, people were doing things, they were getting involved in learning. But I feel that as a couple, we could use that time, because there's a lot of time that people now, they are forced. Things are opening up a bit, but people are forced to spend a lot of time together. One thing I would say, Joe, whatever you do, don't spend all your time together. Because regardless of how much you love somebody, too much time together may be much.
Say that again, Miss Husband. Say that again.
Yes, because people are in the house a lot together. Yes, too much time together. They're two separate individuals. So find time for your own interests, your own, within, reasonable and wise boundaries. Yes. So therefore, whatever you do, don't spend all your time together. That would have worked. That works in the beginning of relationships. But as you mature in the relationship, you want to have your own separate activities, etc. But you ask me, what can people do as couples? Well, there are some things that you could do. Let me think. One of the things that came to my mind was that it's always good. People talk a lot about quality time. But what is quality time? It's not sitting in front of the TV, looking at movies. That's good. That's good. But when we speak about quality time, we mean intentional time. So both persons must have agreement. Okay, our quality time is once a week. Let's say on Saturday afternoons, 5 to 7, or whatever time you choose. This is our time that we spend together. And if possible, we spend this time together. If there are children, possibly find activities where the children could be. You could do it as a family as well, but we're talking about couples. This is our time that we spend together to check in on each other. How has your week been? Yes? You take off the phones, the devices, etc. And you really see if you get back into that. Remember that early bonding period. It's possible. And how have you been? What has been good for you this week? Questions along those lines. So you're trying to reconnect.
And in terms of that reconnect, I want to thank you very much, Ms. Husbands. And I think that reconnecting is a beautiful point for us to just pull the curtains down on this conversation, because I think sometimes what I'm hearing from different people is that you have people in a relationship and then you say, but you don't say you love me anymore, but you know that.
Exactly.
You know that I love you.
Exactly. But you want to hear
it. I think that is how we're going to go out on this conversation. But we want to thank you very much, Ms. Husbands, Noeline Husbands, Counsellor and Family Life Educator, Wise Counselor Associates. And we end with something from Double M, the monk himself, Marshall Montano, for this conversation. On behalf of the TTT team, thank you for joining us.
This is the time to appreciate. Don't hold back, don't procrastinate. Don't wait till they come. Look somebody in the face, please don't wait. Tell them straight. Tell them say